Hi, he's Mattyman.
And he's Vanny Boy.
And you're listening to The Rusty Playground, a Gen X-centric podcast where we talk about everything involving the coolest generation.
And why are we the coolest generation? Well, besides the best music, MTV, awesome clothes, horrible clothes, mullets, Vans, the Brat Pack, and Patrick Swayze movies, we had some awesome toys.
Yes, indeed we did. So many that we thought what would be our regular two-parter, it turned out to be, a bit more than that.
That's putting it lightly, old buddy, old pal. This is the start of episode 7, Christmas Toys, part 3. I know what 9-volt batteries taste like. If you missed episodes 5 and 6, which are part 1 and 2, and I swear I do not know how many of these are, of this extra special Christmas Gen extravaganza, then stop this madness and go do that.
Yep. And if keeping up with these names and numbers are a bit too much for you, then congratulations, you're in Generation X.
Enough with the backhanded compliments. Let's wrap up the toys of the 1970s. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, another one that was, amazing experience for kids in the Gen X world was the Mattel, I should say mainly boys here, the Mattel Electronics football game. Do you remember that one?
Ladies and gentlemen, we challenged hotshot Dick Tchaikovsky to play the Mattel Electronics football game. Dick doesn't know, inside is a tiny thinking computer that plays like a whole team of pros. Dick's got the ball, but that computer defense is tough. He drives up the middle, stopped cold.
1 yard.
Now Dick cuts left, down the sidelines, touchdown. Mattel Electronics Pocket Football with a built-in computer.
Hey, who's in there?
I do. For some reason, I'm thinking about the baseball game.
Yep, they had one too.
I think we probably had both.
Yeah.
I know we had both.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did too.
Addictive as hell.
They were awesome, for the time.
It's just lights.
Yeah, all it was little blinky lights. Now, consider this the world's first Game Boy, basically. It sold for $29.95 back then, which was basically $150 today. So they, if you think about both you and I had the football and the baseball, that's $300 worth of just a toy. So I didn't realize these things were so damn expensive. You look back and you're like, that thing was only $30 and now you got to pay all No, it was a lot more than what you pay now.
Yeah.
It came out in 1977 and blew everybody's mind. If you're a Gen X boy born between 65 and 72, you either had this or you wanted this game. If you had it, you would have lots of memories of this toy. If you don't have lots of memories and you did have it, then something's seriously wrong with you, because this was the toy for all the boys, no doubt about it. And like Maddie said, it wasn't just the football one, but that's the one I'm talking about. They also had a baseball one, which was equally primitive, but also equally fun. So
we challenged hotshot Garland Dwyer with the new Mattel Electronics baseball game.
You are off.
Inside, a tiny thinking computer plays like a team of pros. The computer fires a fastball.
Strike one.
Now a curve. It's a triple. Garland's trying to stretch it home. New Pocket Baseball, one of 7 sports games from Mattel Electronics.
Yeah, and also if you wanted to risk it, you would take it to school, but you try not to.
Yeah, I was never going to do that. It'd get taken away or broken.
Exactly. Someone would steal it. Someone would break it because they'd be jealous. So there's no way in hell, man.
And now that
was top tier.
$150. Yeah, that was top tier toy. It was sold exclusively through Sears, which I really didn't realize that. And initially, Sears didn't have it together with their toys, I guess, because initially there were only 100,000 of these units made. Now that was based off of their previous one, which was the first one. It was called Auto Race, the first handheld that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't nearly as good, but somehow I guess Sears forgot that football is about 1 billion times more popular than racing, and that they would need to make more than 100,000.
Even then, football was huge compared to every other sport.
Oh yeah, football's king in America for since the
50s.
50s, yeah.
Well, the 50s I think really started it. It was I'm trying to remember what year it was. I believe it was a big championship game the Giants in 1956. One of the first televised games.
Third dollar on the left. Kicking into about a 12 mile per hour wind coming out of the southwest. Again, he gets off a good one. This one about 15 yards shorter at the 24. Morrison has it and is down at the 30.
Right. And it's a great sport for TV. Now, late 60s, 68, I guess, when Joe Namath made his famous prediction that they would win. That was really basically the first Super Bowl type thing that they had going on. And it just exploded after that. So you'd think that Sears would have been aware of this. Even if they were just business people, they would have to be aware of that, the difference between the popularity of racing and football. But anyway, after selling the first 100,000, they upped production, and within 6 months, they were selling around 500,000 units a month. They initially made 100,000 of these things and quickly were selling 500,000 of them a month.
Just a bit outside.
So they were just a bit outside.
Yeah. And imagine the turnaround they had to do to then get more inventory overseas brought over.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they had to really spit them out quick. Luckily they weren't, I guess we could say we look at them and say they weren't super complex, but you got to remember, this was like 1977. So anything that was remotely complex was probably pretty damn complex for the time.
I wonder if they were made in Taiwan. Remember when everything was made in Taiwan?
Components, American components, Russian components, all made in Taiwan.
I don't know.
And then it wasn't. I guess China is like, no, we're going to do that.
Yeah. Well, we'll do it until we take them over, I guess. But that's not this podcast.
No, not this. No.
So it was over 10 inches tall, nearly 6.5 inches wide, and about 1.5 inches thick. A little bit bigger than an 8-track for all the old timers out there who would know the scale of that. At the top was a raised oval that looked like a football stadium, with a display in the middle of it that was supposed to be a football field. Looked like a football field, and I say football field, but actually there were only 9 yard lines instead of like the 10 that you should have. It was 9 of those lines. And I was looking up trying to find why in the world was there only 9 instead of 10 between all the end zones. And apparently the only answer I could find was it was because of programming issues.
For every mystery, there is someone, somewhere, who knows the truth. Perhaps that someone is watching. Perhaps it's you.
I don't know. Don't know what that would be. Quite obscure. Under that were the controls. It's pretty simple. Any kid could play it. Had 3 buttons on the left. Then one would show you the score, one to check the downs, field position, and yards to go for the first down, and then a button to just kick the ball. There were 3 buttons on the right that controlled your up, down, and your left and right, of course. And depending on which way you were running, so you only needed 3. You didn't need 4. You were never on defense. The computer controlled that all the time. You always just controlled your running back.
Tavares Smith King, Merrimack College.
Todd Royal, Smoochie Wallace, University of Miami.
This Jack Marius Tack Theratrix, Michigan State University. Javaris and Lamar, University of Middle Tennessee. These are 12 Washing Beard, Jones College.
The player formerly known as Mouse Cop, University of Missouri, Columbia.
Dan Smith, BYU.
And your player, all players were red dashes, like you said, but our guy was brighter than the defense. And you'd take control of that guy and you could move 3 spaces up or down, or continue to move left or right, whichever direction you're going.
I don't remember now. Could you pass? Could you be quarterback and pass?
Nope.
All it was is everything's a running play.
Everything's a running play, which actually makes sense for the 70s because they weren't like super passing all over the place anyway.
Well, no.
And as you would go towards their dashes, they would end up getting in your way. And then if you were stuck, kind of like in checkers or something, you'd get tackled, so to speak. And then that was the end of that down and you'd start over. There were a couple difficulty levels, but really this wasn't a big time. All this did was make their guys faster. That was basically the game balance of it. Now, I know it sounds
coming back to me now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I looked it up on when I was doing research for this and looking at videos of it and stuff on YouTube, and it's like, man, I remember being in the back of the car and playing the crap out of this. And when my Atari was at my mom and dad's, and when I go to my grandfather's house. I would, I'd take that with me because I couldn't take my Atari all the time. So, and I know it sounds boring, folks, but believe me, other than the Atari I mentioned, this game was the bomb. I had a lot of fun with it. Everybody had a lot of fun with it. Maddie had a lot of fun with it.
Yes.
If you were a boy in 1977, 1978, around there, you had this game. If your parents loved you.
Yeah. If
they
you either had the game, wanted the game, shivved some kid to get his game, something.
Yeah, you'd show up from school with a brand new $150 game, and I think you're pretty much busted for stealing.
And then even if you had gone into juvie, they would have said, well, why did you do it? And you're like, because I needed it. And they'd say, oh, let him out of here.
Yeah. We understand, kid.
Yeah, it's
a great game.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
But 9-volt battery not included.
Oh, but now, and I don't know further in your list if it gets mentioned, but something that was a football game that everybody had, and I don't know how many times you bothered playing it, but you had to have that football, that electronic football field, and you put the little players on it, and they'd all scramble around.
They'd all vibrate till
they'd all vibrate, and they wouldn't do anything of what you expected them to do.
Yeah, it's just
you spend all this time putting the players on it vibrate around.
No, the game developers put about 14 seconds into the thought of how this thing would work.
Believe it or not, I studied 19th century French poetry.
What a waste of time. I mean, for someone else, that would be an incredible waste of time. It's so bold of you to choose that.
If everybody wanted one, and your granddad would buy it, and he'd want to play, he'd help you set it up, and you'd do this crap. They'd all vibrate around, spin around.
You'd literally have these characters with, that look like football players, and they were made out of cardboard, I guess. And the ones I had that were made of cardboard, and you put them in this little plastic thing that would hold it up, and you'd put them on the field. You could line them up as nice as you want, like you're going to run your play. You'd hit the button, and the field would actually vibrate up and down.
They'd
really
be just
fast.
a field of epileptics,
just. And you had no control. You might as well have just, you had a better chance of throwing craps 17 times in a row than you did of these things crossing the end zone.
But one of the things they were smart about is they knew everybody had their team they wanted. So you'd order the players, that was a separate thing. Like, I think they gave you generic ones or something, but then you could order in.
Yeah. You could get the Redskins or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that, man. That's hilarious.
And like I say, after like maybe 2 or 3 times putting that together, that went away.
Yeah. It was in the closet. You never got it again. And
you'd hope your granddad would never ask you, like, hey, you want to put that football game together?
Yeah. Mine never would, because he knew it sucked from the get-go.
Greatness inspires envy, envy engenders spite, spite spawns lies. You must know this, Dumbledore.
All right, so
go ahead. Sorry.
To keep on going, let's roll with another one you've already mentioned, the $6 Million Man Doll.
$6 Million Man, ready to operate and command. Colonel Steve Austin is the $6 Million Man, complete with the technology to replace his bionic modules. Check him out with the bionic transport and repair station. Control his amazing lifting strength. See through his wide-angle bionic eye. The man, his bionic transport that becomes a repair station, and a working backpack radio.
That is the best. That's it. We win. You lose.
That's right.
You lose, everyone else. We win.
That's right. I'm going to go play with my $6 Million Man Doll. You go over there and play with your little vibrating football game. I'll just set on it. You might have a little more fun.
Yeah.
Champions, my friends.
So, we covered this one more depth in episodes 1 and 2, but here's a general breakdown of it. We'll just run through it. It was based off the hit TV series by the same name. The $6 Million Man doll was 10 inches tall, and he wore a bright red workout suit that was shown in the series as well. I remembered it as being orange, but it was actually red.
Yeah, it's red.
Yeah, it looked like the star of the series, Lee Majors, who famously had a raised eyebrow whenever he would try to, use his bionic eye or whatever. He was kind of a sex symbol of the time, and he was married to the 70s sex symbol Farrah Fawcett, who was, for some reason, the late 70s sex symbol.
She was the it girl, but
yeah, not to me. I liked the other two angels better than her, but from Charlie's Angels. But anyway, and like we'd mentioned before, in the back of his head, he had a hole, so you could look through it like you were looking at through his bionic eye, and the lens had a panoramic view, so it simulated like you were looking a distance. It wasn't like a zoom; it just looked like, oh, you're looking far away. Kind of a cheap effect, but to we young lads back in the day, it was magic. I was right there. I was Steve Austin, not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was the $6 Million Man Steve Austin.
Yes, but he adopted that name due to the character, did he not?
He did, because his real name's Steve Williams, and there was another wrestler named Steve Williams. So he was like, oh, hell, I'll be Steve Austin. Whatever.
Yep.
Hell yeah, McMahon.
Give me a hell yeah. I said, give me a hell yeah.
And if you turned it, I'd forgotten about this when we talked about it before, but if you turned his head slightly to the right, you could press a button in his back, and that would make his right arm, his bionic arm, lift up to 2 pounds. And it blew my mind. I'd totally forgotten all about that. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember the arm action.
Yeah.
Are you sure that was the original version, or did they maybe come out with a
no, it was the original.
Augmented. Okay.
Yeah. We just we blocked it out somehow. Maybe it broke easy. I don't know. But anyway, we had mentioned before, of course, in his right arm, which was bionic, he had a rubber sleeve that you could lift up and it would show the bionics. It was it was pretty obviously there. So it wasn't like,
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
hey, he has a regular arm. Here's a hidden bionic. No, it was like a rubber sleeve over top of his arm. And you roll it back, and it was just plastic.
You just roll it back like, foreskin or
right. I assume.
For those of you that would have to do that.
Yeah. I'm a Christian. I don't have to worry about it. So it was taken. That was taken up when I was too young to complain about it.
Have you been circumcised?
Yeah, I have. Why?
Well, your doctor must have cut a big portion of it off.
No, he was a good doctor.
Good doctors make mistakes too. That's why they buy insurance.
Hey, don't worry. I got enough.
Yeah.
People are knowing too much about us, Matt.
Yes.
So anyway, these so-called bionics that they had were just a plastic rectangle with a sticker on it. But, this was a toy, and we used our imagination. You could remove that one and replace it with another one. I think they had a few different versions that you could buy, but just don't forget to wipe the sweat from your brow as you operate, just like the surgeon Rudy did in the opening credits.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. That was when they were doing the whole, we can rebuild him, make him faster, stronger. It shows Rudy, and he's like working on him, and they bring up his pad to touch his head because he's sweating under pressure.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I don't know how I'll remember that. I can't remember what I did with my keys earlier tonight, but I can remember that Rudy got his brow touched with the swabs.
Yes.
The character also had bionic legs, but there was nothing overtly special about the legs on the doll. You just use your imagination, like I said.
But it was just my imagination once again, running away with me.
There were some add-ons you could buy, like a steel girder and my personal favorite, a rocket ship that you could place Steve Austin in. Although now that I think about it, it wasn't very sensitive to Steve Austin, the character, because, he was in a rocket ship that wrecked, and that's how he lost his eye, his arm, and his 2 legs in the first place. So maybe that's not the best thing he'd want to be playing around in.
Precisely, old chum. Not to mention, how the hell, it's like it took out his eye, but like his nose was fine, his ears were fine. That's really specific. Like something that takes your arm out, but your face,
You mentioned ear, but they also had the $6 million. Well, I guess she was $6 million woman, right? It was Jamie Summers, the Bionic Woman. They didn't call her $6 million woman. I guess that was
because by then it was probably $8 million.
The Bionic Woman brings you all the action and excitement you expect from the most amazing woman in the world.
I don't give up easily.
She's brilliant. She's beautiful. She's bionic. And she's this country's most secret weapon.
You got it.
Lindsay Wagner is the Bionic Woman, and the Bionic Woman is a winner.
All right, Maddie, here we are on to the big one, the Star Wars action figures.
Darth Vader, watch out! And he's got a lightsaber.
It's Kenner's new Star Wars action figures, each sold separately.
I got you now, Ben Kenobi.
With R2-D2 and C-3PO. There's even Chewbacca and Han Solo.
Someone's coming, Chewie. Who's there? It's Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. Now I know the Force is with us.
There is no bigger. There is no bigger. Jesus. I mean, well, the figures aren't big. They were the tiniest things you ever saw.
Yep.
You were so disappointed in the action figure, but yet you love the movie and everything so much, you just put up with it.
Yes, that's right. And, the interesting thing is everybody knows that the movie came out in 1977 and the toys came out in 1977, but they were in short supply and high demand. We mentioned before Mego, which did Micronauts. They passed on the license as we poked endless fun of them.
I've made a huge mistake.
And Kenner won the license.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure that ran them out of business.
Oh, they have somebody got fired. No doubt about it.
Screw you! You're fired!
And due to licensing issues, like I'd mentioned, Kenner was slow to start producing them. They had to, make the molds and make the prototypes and everything. And so Christmas came around and they didn't have enough toys. So they just sold certificates that were redeemable for 4 figures eventually.
Star Wars figures. R2-D2. Chewbacca, Luke, and Princess Leia. They're the Star Wars Early Bird set of figures. These action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird certificate package, new from Kenner.
Nice.
So you can imagine the disappointment. For Christmas, you're run down there. You're like, I know I'm going to get something from Star Wars. And you open up the box. You're like, yeah, this box is a little light, but yeah, it's got to be Star Wars. You see that logo, Star Wars, super stoked. And then you see a piece of cardboard that says, coming soon. Wah, wah. I mean, talk about turning to the dark side.
Price is Right. Put that in.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Awesome.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, eventually the toys did come out with a limited set, but eventually expanded in 1978 and 79, of course, when the Empire Strikes Back came out.
Oh, yeah. The humongous Hoth set.
Yes. I mean, that's when you started to be able to buy like the Millennium Falcon. What the hell's an aluminum Falcon anyway?
Vader, how's my favorite Sith? Whoa. Just slow down. Huh? What do you mean they blew up the Death Star? Oh, who's they? What the hell is an aluminum Falcon?
And they had bigger sets, and they had started not just having Leia and all that and Luke. They started having Greedo and some ancillary characters that were less important to me, less important. I guess if you're a big Greedo fan, sorry to burst your bubble there, but whatever.
Yeah. They had he was one of the pilots in the original Star Wars, but he ended up in all of them. Was it Wedge?
Wedge. Yeah.
Wedge.
Yeah. He was his best buddy, right? Wasn't that his best buddy that was on Tatooine with him? And
no, that was Biggs.
Biggs. Oh, sorry, Biggs.
Biggs bought it, but Wedge lived through all of them. Wedge Antilles. And It's like, okay, nobody knows who the hell that is except for Star Wars. Does he? I wonder if he goes and does the signings and stuff.
I would.
Yeah. I
you
would
know, you
too.
show up and be like a bunch of, Gen X old fogies showing up. Hey, there's Wedge. Hey, Wedge, can I have your autograph?
I had a salad with you earlier.
Hey, Wedge. Yeah, would you like to talk about your, some Medicare? Would you like to talk about that?
Medicare C.
Medicare C.
You signed up for that.
Medicare C later.
I need to know.
Death is funny.
Look, I'm awfully sorry. I am the Grim Reaper. Who? The Grim Reaper. Yes, I see. I am Death. Yes, well, the thing is, we've got some people from America for dinner tonight.
Who is it, darling?
It's a Mr. Death or something. He's come about the reaping. I don't think we need any at the moment.
Yeah. coming for us all. Ha ha.
Might as well laugh.
Yeah.
Speaking of disastrous death moves, after the success of American Graffiti, which was another George Lucas movie, I guess his first, really.
THX 1137 was his first, but then American Graffiti.
American Graffiti. Where were you in '62?
That special one and jump into your candy-colored custom or your screaming machine, cruise downtown and catch American Graffiti.
Yeah, and that was a big success, right? And because it was a success, he was supposed to get a 300% pay raise from $150,000 to $500,000. Seems like, wow, what an awesome deal. But instead, he told Fox Studios that he would accept $150,000 salary, that base, if they agreed to let him A, keep the merchandising rights, and B, retain the rights to any sequels. And that is arguably the greatest deal in cinematic. It's not even arguably. It is the greatest deal in cinematic history, or the worst if you're Fox.
That's disastrous.
Talk about your bum, 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 bum. You're all fired. Between 1977 and 1979, Star Wars sold $100 million worth of toys. That's nearly $500 million today in 2 years.
We're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along.
Of toys, folks, toys. So to put it another way, Fox could have paid Lucas $500,000 and made $500 million. But instead, they paid him $150,000 and lost out on the $500 million. Ouch.
You need to find your happy place. There is no happy place.
We will, of course, do a deep dive, probably, singular episode on Star Wars. Obviously, very, very big deal to me and Maddie and Gen X as a whole.
And we were there when it originally happened, so suck it.
So I can't tell you if you grew up and watched The Fifth Element and then later saw A New Hope. I can't explain to you just how mind-blowing it was to see that Land Cruiser go across the sand, and it looks like it's floating, because what they really did was just put a mirror there. So, but at the time as a kid, I'm like, you couldn't even, it was magic. It was literally like watching a wizard pop out of the freaking walls and just start waving a wand around and creating something from nothing. That's really, that's the effect it had on me anyway.
Yeah, I think I peed myself.
I peed on you, if I recall.
Yeah. Seeing it years later when we watched it together, I think we peed on each other.
Yes.
It was that profound.
I'm so embarrassed. I wish everybody else was dead.
Well, that later we were, so worked up that we didn't pee watching it. Later, we just peed on each other. We were so confused with excitement.
Yeah. And it was college, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We tried it again with Ghostbusters, but it was like, don't cross the streams. That was still in our mind. So we were a little.
And there was a couple of weeks where we really didn't want to make eye contact. So
I still don't.
Yeah. It's a little awkward, but 3 decades in therapy It's amazing what happens.
That's right. That's right.
Where were we?
We were saying basically that there's not a whole lot to say that you don't already know about Star Wars, most likely. Even if you're an ancillary fan, you probably know more about it than you actually. You could name 5 characters off the top of your head. If you've lived in America, over the past 50 years, you've heard, you could say, oh, let me guess, Luke Skywalker, Chewie, Han Solo, you could guess. So they're ubiquitous.
Oh, one little factoid, at least in my life, is the fact that my mom, last actual movie she saw in a theater was Star Wars.
Believe it or not.
What? Wait. The last movie that your mom ever saw
in a movie theater,
and she's still alive.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that's maybe a good thing or a bad thing, but what I mean to say is she wasn't really much into going to the movies at a movie theater by then.
I am staggered.
I know. And yet, but that was the one. That's the one where she's like, well, I've got to go see this.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, she stopped on a high. So
exactly. You stopped when a movie ticket was like less than $5. Ew.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
You're unbelievable.
But these toys, as everybody knows, they have incredible value. If they're unopened and they're in mint condition, they're worth a fortune today. Just a simple search on Google will show you that for the lowest cost for a Luke Skywalker in mint condition from 1977 is over $1,000.
Some may call this junk. Me, I call them treasures.
That's for a toy.
Wow. And let's remember the toy. Let's think about this toy for a moment. He had a little lightsaber that went up his arm. There's like 0 points of articulation.
None
in these action figures.
You could move their arms left up and back, and you could move their legs, but their legs didn't. Their knees didn't bend. Their elbows didn't bend. Their heads barely turned.
Yeah, these were the worst action figures up to that time, but everybody wanted them.
Right? Who cares? They had all the best. I had Luke, Han, Chewie, Leia, Greedo, and several more. Mine didn't last long, and while I had a blast, or would that be blaster?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
All right. Making up my own stories about the gang in a galaxy far, far away. My grandfather's toy poodle, Fred, apparently thought they were made of bacon. Nearly every one that I had was chewed into pieces. Oh, or is that chewied into pieces?
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
You can stop that.
No.
Just stop it.
Okay, I will. You people get it. It was a great toy. Let's move on.
Applaud, everyone. Applaud sarcastically. No, that sounds too sincere. Slow clap. There we go.
Yes, quite.
All right, Rubik's Cube.
Sure, Sir Isaac Newton unraveled the mysteries of gravity. But could he have unraveled the mysteries of Rubik's Cube? 3 weeks ago, Judge Smith retired to her chambers with Exhibit A, Rubik's Cube. She hasn't been seen since. Warning, once you get your hands on Rubik's Cube, you may never be able to put it down. Rubik's Cube, over 3 billion combinations, but just one solution from Ideal.
Tell me more. Lay it on me, brother.
All right, this was invented by Ernot Rubik. I can't give the name, some Russian, in 1974. Initially not a toy, it was created to help explain 3D geometry. In 1976, it was shown at the Nuremberg Toy Story. I've got Woody on my mind.
I bet.
'Cause I'm a dirty white boy. Yeah, a dirty white boy. A dirty white boy.
We were talking about peeing on each other. I've got Woody on my mind.
Hey, she's in bed, man. Give it up.
Oh, yeah. And so it was shown at the Nuremberg Toy Show. There we go. And became an instant worldwide sensation. As everyone knows, we've seen it. We all know what it is. In 2009, the Rubik's Cube surpassed 350 million units worldwide, making it the biggest selling toy of all time. I had a Rubik's Cube. Did you have a Rubik's Cube?
Of course.
Yes.
My God.
Yes.
You either had the Rubik's Cube or the knockoff Rubik's Cube, which is like a nickel's worth of difference, really.
I had Rubik's Cube, and I had the book with it, which was boring as crap.
Fuck books. Oh, no. Books are for pussies. No. Go hit the gym.
I used to be able to like turn, start off with the colors on each side, and I could turn it like 7 times or whatever. And I would have, basically 5s on each side. It looked really cool. And then you just reverse it, and it goes back to its normal, solid colors on the sides. I thought they were really cool, but I wasn't very good at it. And so I would do what most people would do. There's 2 ways to solve the Rubik's Cube if you're not a Rubik's Cube genius person. And one is to take the stickers off and put them back the way they belong. Now, you're kind of telling on yourself a bit.
Because and those stickers will never come back on completely right. So
no,
let's be honest.
Yes. They sometimes they tear, but they always would be just less tacky next time. So they just start to peel up and stuff. It's everybody knew you're a cheater.
Later on, I found out that he was a low-down, cheating, dirty dog.
Then there was the other way, which was my favorite way, which was just to tear the damn thing apart and put it back together. It had like a center with just knobs on it, and you could just poke those other squares back into it if you knew which ways to do it. And then you'd have all the sides would be correct. Problem was, yes.
Then Vanny Boy runs into the room and says, "Look, I solved it. And I'm like, yeah, you did.
Sure you did. Good
yeah,
boy.
You did. Good guy.
Here's your medicine, fool." That's what they would say. My dad would kick me in the ass.
They'd be like,
you punk.
Yeah, they'd be like kind of giving you the stink eye and wave you out of the room like, sheesh.
Go get the belt. Well, but I'm 28. So
anyway.
So but you could always, you outed yourself doing that too, because as you would use it, it would become less stiff and would just kind of break apart in your hands if you did it too many times. So, it was it was a fad. I say it was a fad, but it's lasted, 40 years.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
People.
I didn't know anybody bought them after like 1983, honestly. So that's amazing.
Yes. I'm just wondering if this 2009 Rubik's Cube surpassing 350 million units worldwide thing is like after the West stopped playing with it, they started buying it in other parts of the world or something, because I don't really know anybody who has one.
They probably had a surplus and they went to Africa and like, hey, I know you're like want water and food, but hey, here's 500,000 Rubik's Cubes.
So as we move on from one of the least favorite toys we ever had to some of the most favorite toys we ever had, which were certified 1970s dangerous ass toys.
Mr. Mainway, I'm afraid this is by no means a safe toy.
Okay, I just want to correct you on one thing here, okay? First of all, the full name of this product, as appears in stores all over the country, is Johnny Switchblade Adventure Punk.
Plastic guns that actually shoot. There were 2 kinds that stick out to me. The multiple companies that made these things, so it wasn't like it was just one type. You could get them from, pretty decent quality to, 25 cent out of the, quarter thing, spend it drops out of the plastic bucket or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm saying, but
most impressive. Your powers even exceed Luthor's description. Brainiac, I presume.
It's so cheap.
I never have either.
But anyway,
collect yourself.
Thank you. The 2 that I remember most, they did 2 different things. One shot quarter-sized plastic discs, and one that shot pea-sized plastic balls. Now, these would never pass muster now. Never. They didn't look real. That wasn't the problem. They were orange and purple and, blue, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was the fact that they would shoot these discs or the balls 20 feet or so. Now, you could say, well, that's okay. Is that bad? Well, they were meant to be played inside. So do you see the problem now? That you would shoot these things and they would go like 40 miles an hour at your eyeball.
Yeah, shouldn't we learn by dodging balls that are thrown at us, or?
That's what this sack of wrenches is for. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly the reason I got excited when I saw a plastic disc is it made me think of the Star Trek phasers.
Oh, yeah.
We had, one of each color. We had the one that was like that 60s gold color, and the other was that aqua teal kind of color.
Yeah, I think Teeter had the gold one.
The Star Trek Super Phaser 2 target game uses one 9-volt and 2 penlight batteries, not included. It signals when you hit the target reflector badge. You can hang the target almost anywhere.
So we had those, and they had the multicolored disc, and of course you'd lose them all within like 2 days.
Yes,
they all went behind your bed. You'd never get them again,
Yeah, and one of the things that always struck me was that these folks, these are like I said, they're like about the size of a quarter, maybe not quite that big, but close to it, and about as thick as thin cardboard. But they had little shapes that were carved out of them. It kind of reminded me of those little plastic spacers that you would use on 45s when you put albums down.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about now.
Because they had like a design in them, and that would basically help to make them more aerodynamic, you would think. But they were fast, and they were perfectly throat sized, I would have to say. The manufacturers knew that swallowing could be a problem, so they put those different patterns inside of it. So they were hollow in parts. So if you swallowed one and it went down the wrong pipe, you could still get air going through instead of if it were just a solid piece of plastic.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It'd be another tragic pop top death that Buffett would have to chronicle.
Well, I mean, and a little tidbit of information for people if they didn't know. If you've ever wondered why there's a hole in a Lifesaver candy, you might say, oh, well, that's because it's like lifesavers that they have on boats and stuff where they throw it out and it has a hole in it. That's kind of one reason, but the main reason is that it has that hole in it. So if a kid swallows it and it goes down the wrong pipe, they have a hole that they can breathe until it gets to, go to the doctor or whatever. So.
Wow. I didn't see that one coming, but Steve Austin did with his bionic eye.
Yes, indeed. Actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if good old Steve got electric shock when he cried while singing Jamie. That would have been an oversight by the so-called brilliant Rudy.
Hard to tell, Vanny boy. Maybe I'll pick up one of the many graphic novels and next great American novels written about Steve Austin, astronaut, man barely alive. Let me just look on the Googles and see how many there are. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, I got them all now.
There aren't any, are there?
Not a one. No one cared.
No one cared. But what people do care about is what is next. And that is going to be episode 8, part 4 of our Christmas Gen X extravaganza.
Then we'll jump into the 80s, where toys got more electronic and technical, but batteries got more expensive.
Until then, don't forget to include the ghost of Charles Nelson Riley in your prayers.
Peace out.